Hi, it's Dorothy Guiney with Scrapbooking Quebec, and welcome to the second installment of my December Stash Kit Recipe Book Project series. Last week on YouTube, I put together a stash kit and shared my idea. I want to put together recipe books for my adult children for Christmas. But to do this, I have to do this quickly. So today what I'm going to do is share my strategy, my plan. How am I going to put together a meaningful family recipe book quickly? I'll put a link to last week's video below, but first I'm going to start by telling you what I learned since last week. It's going to need one 12 by 12 sheet of paper for two 6 by 8 pages, and that's going to be my format. I put in letters last week for titles. I'm not going to need them. The titles are already on the recipes. And thirdly, all these decorations that I selected, I'm not going to need them. Honestly, one stamp set, one punch, one set of stickers is going to be enough. The first thing I did was make a list of the recipes I wanted to include, and then I made two checklists, one for photos and one for recipes. And as I found them, I checked them off. And then what I did was I went through my recipes, and whenever possible, I scanned the recipes and then printed them on photo paper at 6 by 8 so I could slip it right in the pocket. When I didn't have that as an option, I wrote out my recipes, and again, I made them in 6 by 8 format. And on these ones, I was sure to include a little story, a little family anecdote. But not all recipes could be printed at 6 by 8, so that one there is 5 by 5. Once I had my recipes, then I went through my photo albums and I tried to find 1 to 2 photos per recipe. And what I was planning on doing was printing them out at 3.5 by 5. But I didn't always find photos that accompanied recipes. In this case, for example, it's their grandmother. So it was their grandmother's recipe, and that photo is going to accompany her recipe. Once that was done and printed out, I made these little paper folders. So per paper folder are recipes as well as photos. And in that, you can see I did a little sketch, a little plan for the 2-page spread. And in an ideal world, like I said, I have a 6 by 8 recipe as well as 2 3.5 by 5 photos. So this is a classic example, and most of my pages are like this. If I have 2 vertical photos, I can place them like this. If I have 2 horizontal photos, I can place them like this. And if I have a vertical and a horizontal, I can do this. But as luck would have it, I couldn't do that for all of the pages. So I'll show you a few examples. In this page, I couldn't decide. There were just too many fun photos. So I do have 2 horizontal photos, but I also printed out a few wallet-size photos that I can incorporate either on the recipe side or as decorations. And I printed that out as well because my daughter had written that recipe out as a child, and she spelled the word flower, Flower, instead of Flou. So that one I may just even tuck in the envelope. And in this case, I really couldn't decide. So what I did was I simply printed out a bunch of wallet-size photos, and for that one I planned to make just a little mosaic. And there's only going to be 1 page in the recipe book like that. Anyway, and finally, this is another example. I had no photos, so all I did was print out the recipes, and I'm going to have 1 per page, and I have a bit of room at the bottom where I can simply add a little story, a little embellishment cluster. I'll see as time goes on. So there I am having a look at my photos again. And when that was done, what I did was I went through the paper and I cut it all up. I planned to make this recipe book kind of like an assembly line approach. So what I did for a 12 by 12 paper is I cut it at 8 inches, and then what I did was I cut it in 2 pieces, 6 by 8. That left me with a 4-inch strip of paper. So that is more than enough to do 2 pages in that little album. Anyway, and like I said, one side is going to have recipe taking up, so I don't even really need a full sheet per 2 pages, but in some cases, yes. Here are an example of 2 pages that I have already done. So I have a 6 by 8 recipe printed on photo paper, and on the flip side I've done the page. So I have the page as well as a border that I made. I used a border punch and simply backed my photos. Now I plan to do this recipe book with an assembly line approach. I'm going to go through and do all of my pages, and then I'm going to go back and I'm just going to add one simple embellishment cluster, probably per 2 pages, and that's it. So at the end of the month, I will share with you my project to let you know how I've done. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, if you haven't subscribed to Scrapbooking Quebec, I'd love it if you subscribed. And thank you so much for watching. Have a great December. Bye-bye.